What does success look like to me? What am I driving towards? And those things are very personal. It's amazing what you can accomplish when there's trust in the room. And when you remove that trust, it's remarkable how inefficient you can become.
And when you've got guys around you who are buying into your vision and pushing towards the same thing, it's energizing.
So you're here with me, Kenton, and Josh here. We're with the Forge Contractor Alliance, and so happy to be back at the mic talking about what's going on in our lives. And yeah, what are we talking about today, Josh?
Well, I really think this would be a good time to talk about the coveted conversation around work-life balance.
All right.
Because something that's very real to me right now. And I think that's one of the main things that we really want to focus on in this podcast is talking about things that we're actually living day to day.
Totally.
Bringing our experiences that we're actually out experiencing this week or weekend and bringing it into the booth and actually talking about what's happening right now. Work-life balance to me right now is a big thing. And not just the overall topic, but specifically work-life balance for those who are leading a company.
Right.
Because, like, let's be real, it's different for us who have the weight of the entire company riding on our shoulders compared to, say, our staff and employees.
It's a different game because while business owners typically have more freedom, enslave is not the right word, but we require a certain intensity, particularly at certain seasons.
Yeah.
I come from a line of Mennonite farmers, and they're historically known to be very hardworking people. And I was thinking about that, and I'm like, why is that kind of a stereotype that actually makes a lot of sense? Like most of my relatives, my uncles and aunts and grandparents, etc., worked extremely hard or currently work very hard. Yeah. And I think that the farming mentality is very much like a business owner in that when you're planting, it doesn't matter. If you want to be lazy when you're planting, you literally will starve.
Yeah.
Because the good days, you've got to be out in the machines and you've got to be working the fields. You don't have a choice.
Running a farm is the same as running a business. It is a business.
It is.
It's very focused. It's very structured. I would almost in some ways say it's not as free as running a business in some ways because you are tied to your land.
Yeah. Yeah. And specifically planting and harvest. Like during those times, if you're not flat out, if it's not all hands on deck, and in my tradition, they would always take Sundays off. That was something that they would always do. So they would work till midnight on Saturday and then fire up again, probably, I don't know what time on Monday morning, but I think very, very early, like as early as made sense. And that was their break. And other than that, they were just working as long as their eyes were open, basically.
But from the position of a business leader, we have our seasons and our moments. And this is something I'm starting to realize the further I get into my career as a business owner. Like this weekend, for example, we're recording this in early July. We just passed the July long weekend. Yeah. Canada Day was on July 1st, which was a Tuesday. So my entire company took either the Monday or the Tuesday off. Some people took a full 4-day weekend. Yeah. And I, myself, just because of the demand and the change in the challenges of the market, I had to work every single day this weekend. Right. And it's just like, and I was happy to do it. There were Monday night, I was up till 1 a.m. Yeah. Working through stuff, plowing through stuff. Yeah. And I was excited to do it. But the flip side of it is I applied everything we worked on over the weekend through the week. And come yesterday, I burnt out hard. And I crashed.
Oh, really?
Oh, it wasn't just because of the working 2 weeks straight. Sure. But it was also just like things just started piling up. Yeah. And this is part of the challenge too, is I'm laser focused on trying to change something. And then I'm getting phone calls from different crews.
Of course.
Saying, this is going on. This is going on.
Of course.
The axle blew out of the dump trailer and almost lit on fire down the highway.
Oh,
and
wow.
Like, it's like, okay, well, and just at lunch yesterday, I had to take my tools off and go with my family out to the lake because I was just mentally imploding. Yeah, yeah. And once I got out there, I found a level of rest and I just calmed down. And honestly, after only being out there for a few hours, I was like, okay, I could almost go back and put my tools on or start making phone calls again. Because it was an extreme, like my heart rate was going up. I was just like, I couldn't focus on my job. Even the job I was on had young guys and they're kind of slipping around, marking up the siding with their dirty gloves. And I'm like, oh my word, could just something go smooth, please? But yeah, it was a very high stress moment. And I find that when I don't take those times of rest and I don't take time to spend time with my family and live my life outside of work, my stress levels get so high. And I think this applies to everybody. And this is where the whole work-life balance comes in. Is if we're not taking time to rest and rejuvenate and live our lives outside of work, we get so stressed out or we get just so spread thin over our work that we're actually not that effective in what we're doing. And that's what I was feeling. Like yesterday, I'm on the phone trying to deal with different circumstances. I'm like, I can't even think through this very well. Yet I'm on the tools with these guys and I'm not being effective on the job. I'm not managing the job well. Guys are in places they shouldn't be. And I actually ended up sending a couple guys home when I left too, because it was just like, this is not efficient. This is not working. And I just had to take a step back. And that's the consequence of like going through weekends and not taking that time of rest.
So when I think about work-life balance, I often think about it as there's multiple different things that we can be talking about with this discussion. And so I think it's probably beneficial if we frame it a little bit around like what type of balance are we aiming for? Because I guess here's my analogy, and I've thought about this a lot through my life. There's a kind of balance where you're standing with your shoulders square and your feet shoulder width apart, and you're kind of like a storm is coming at you and you're being blown around or potentially. And so you'd find your balance in that, and you are like in a place where it's hard to move you essentially. And that is balance. And like for a baby, for example, that's kind of the first balance that they learn. They learn this balance of being able to stand upright, and they start with coffee tables and they hit their forehead on the coffee table a couple times before it becomes effective. And that is balance, but it's not forward moving balance, right? Like it's not balance that takes you anywhere. It's balance that kind of keeps you from falling down. It's a different type of balance. When you're walking, it requires a different style of balance, because when you're walking, you need balance. And right now, my mom's been dizzy for like the last few years. And we've been, I can't even say the number of tests that she's had to try to figure out why she's dizzy. And so she can't take a single step without holding on to something right now. And not being able to balance and move forward is it is debilitating to the point where it's hard to express. And so that's a forward moving balance. And then there's a further type of balance where trying to think of the show. There's a show where a dude walks the Twin Towers between he does an illegal walk between the Twin Towers. The Walk, I think it's called. I'm pretty sure it's called The Walk, and correct me if I'm wrong. But there he's tightrope walking, and his balance is a different level. Like it's a completely different level than just walking on the ground. And I often say with the trades that we do, and trades in general, if you don't have good physical balance, like you can't be focusing on your balance. You're focusing on the things that you're doing. So the balance has got to come naturally. But then when you move to that extra extreme of this guy walking on a tightrope, many hundreds of feet above the ground, and I'm pretty good with heights, but that kind of height, not a chance. Like I'm not that guy. And it's a completely different type of balance required, because that balance is a single misstep and you're done. And so your balance doesn't have to be good. It has to be exceptional. And I would argue, and I'm going to deviate here just slightly and then come back around, I think, because sometimes a rabbit trail helps us to kind of understand what we're talking about. But yesterday I was teaching a young guy a piece of my trade. And fantastic kid on the tools, having so much fun, is going extremely well. Yesterday, for some reason, we just weren't finding our groove in the morning. We were doing something fairly technical, and it just wasn't like we were getting stuff done, but we we didn't have the flow that I normally have with this kid. And so, and it was like, I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like we're moving forward, but it just wasn't like the production wasn't there. But more importantly, there's this feeling when you're in the pocket in a trade, when you're working with your hands and you're in that place where it's just going. And if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't been there, I would liken it to, you're well oiled. There's like, you're not wasting energy. You're not communicating overly excessively because there's kind of like a synergy between whoever you're working with. You're just communicating enough. And as soon as you're kind of like, okay, now we're doing this, like the movement is just like succinct. We were trying to get to that place, and we normally do, but at this particular, for a couple hours, we just weren't having that flow. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm just readjusting my objectives for the day, etc. And we came to the end of this run, and we were doing some work with aluminum, and aluminum is very finicky stuff. Like if you mess it at all, the piece comes off, and you've got to start again. And we were doing big stretches. The very last piece in this one run is hugely technical. And my young apprentice, he's just like, how's this going to work? Like, how is this physically possible to do? And I said, well, it's not really. And I was explaining to him, I said, well, the way that we've been doing it won't work for this piece. We have to do it this way. And I'm explaining it to him. I'm like, you got to make sure you don't scratch the piece we've just put in. We've got to come across like this, etc. Squeeze it like this. And we got to work exactly together for this to happen. And so it took me, like typically with this kid, I literally barely have to say anything and he just has it. He's like, he's on it. This particular time, he's like, I don't understand what you're saying, because it was a completely different thing and it was more difficult than what we had done. We got her done. We figured it out and it went in and it was flawless. And you could see the satisfaction and you could see something switch in him. Like literally just right there. Like he's young, he's figuring stuff out. And I could like literally watch the lights come on. But the interesting benefit of that was when we went, and then we had lunch right around then. We came back and everything just clicked. Yeah. Like we just flew. In fact, I told my wife, I said, you're lucky I came home today. Like it was going so good in the afternoon that I was like, I didn't want to stop. Yeah. But my point is, and it was just a wonderful like microcosm of this truth that is there and we get it and yet sometimes we forget, is that things are hard until we do something harder. And once we've done something harder, then whatever was hard before all of a sudden is not hard anymore. And I call it increasing our level of hard. Like there is this time where we're pushing through something and it's awkward or it's hard and it's difficult. And then all of a sudden it's not. And I would argue that when it comes to work-life balance, this is applicable. Because for some people, work-life balance means barely doing any work.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, like if you're running your own, and okay, a good example is I've got a young, he's older than you. Okay. He's not a kid. He's younger than me. And I always look at younger guys like a younger brother. So he's not that young, but he's been running a very small contracting company most of his life doing subbing work. He bought a company recently where he's got a crew working and it's more established. It's kind of like a franchise contracting company. In fact, it is, not just kind of. And so the whole dynamic had to change. He had to put in way more effort. Had no capacity to do that. Because the way that he had always run, he was kind of like the stay-at-home dad / contractor. So he would work in the cracks, which is awesome. And it worked extremely well for him. But all of a sudden, what was required of him to be successful had to change significantly. Yeah. Because otherwise, this thing was just going to crash and burn. And I think that with work-life balance, it's easy for someone from the outside looking in to watch certain people, and because they're amazingly productive and get an incredible amount done and maybe work way more hours than whoever's looking in, they can assume that you're not balanced or that you don't have your priorities figured out because of the volume that you're doing, the amount of intensity in what you're doing, etc. And I mean, let's speak to that, because that's changed for you over the years as to what you can handle and what looks balanced. And it doesn't always go in one direction either, because life changes.
Well, it totally depends on the season. And that's why I think this is very applicable to business leaders. Because, man, when things are ticking, when things are going smooth, there's momentum, everyone's job roles are filled.
And well-defined.
Yeah. Everyone, the market's okay. There's work, leadership strong. My job is actually very easy, and I feel very, my work-life balance can be almost whatever I want it to be.
Right. Yes.
And those are my favorite seasons because then I get to actually more just focus on building the company instead of being involved in the day-to-day.
Yeah.
But then there's seasons like right now where we're facing constant challenges day-to-day, dealing with markets and finding work and changing strategies and stuff. Where
And
it's
even
just like,
supplier issues that aren't normally a thing. Like there's
right now that is true. Like we're always being thrown these curveballs.
Yeah.
And being the leader of the company, it's funny to look at because it's just like over the weekend, I worked every single day. In some ways I'm like contributing to even my partners and other people's job roles.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's just like, we host an event and the response from them is, "Oh, I've got this camping trip planned with my family." I'm like, absolutely. Yes. My job is to make sure that, like, I want nothing more than for you to go spend time with your family.
Totally.
But the flip side of that is like, I didn't get
you're not spending time with
any
yours.
time with mine.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, I have to.
Yes.
And there will be a seasonal thing.
I was going to say, and there would probably be flip sides of that where some of your staff would be working and you're not at times.
Yes.
Hopefully.
Well, that's where the balance comes in.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you never have a season where you can take time to recuperate, then you need to change your approach. Totally. In my opinion.
Yeah.
But because yesterday, for example, it was a Thursday afternoon. I left work because I just had to. And, working through the weekend, trying to fill job roles and push through something that had to be done. It was just, in my mind, there was just no choice.
Because specifically, like, I think it helps to add some meat to this bone is that specifically you're working through the business volume for the main part of your season. Like that's what you're going through right now, which is like, if you don't have your foot on the gas right now when it comes to landing jobs, then the flow of your main season is not going to be what it's meant to be.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So there's a certain urgency around what you're doing right now.
Oh, huge. There's a huge urgency because, like, we're just dealing with a very weird market right now. Something we've never experienced in 10 years.
Yeah. Like, we're a resource-based town, and we're cyclical, which means that if there's big projects going on around us, we can be all hands on deck for years.
Yeah.
And we have been, I would say. Like, we've been busy. And even through COVID, like, we thought that we would be taking this step back, but actually we were like, I've never been more booked than through those years.
Yeah, same.
And so this is now almost like the market's taking a bit of a breath, like just saying, okay, like, we've been flat out. Let's just, like, take a breath. And so because of that, you've got to problem solve and figure out business volume, et cetera, in a different way.
Yeah, we have to be creative. And I mean, the values of the market have changed.
And this is the thing that I think about, like, when a farmer is in harvest time, all his machines have got to be working, but guaranteed, and I have buddies who are farmers, and like I say, come from many generations of farmers, when your machines break down is during harvest time, because that's when you're demanding a lot of them. So all of a sudden you're busy, and then you have this extra layer, and I think that's kind of the season that you're going through right now. It's like, it's busy anyways. This is harvest time for you. But at the same time, you're pivoting and shifting some business process, some pretty major business process. And so that's requiring a ton. The other side of the work-life balance is that while there's seasons in our business, there's also seasons in our personal life.
Yes.
And if we aren't alive to both of those, then something's going to come apart at the seams. Because there's times when, let's just say, your business demands are consistent, but your home life, having a baby, having kids going through, I mean, pick something. It can be almost anything. And those things are critical to be aware of, because as a business owner, if you are running a show where you have staff and you have some ability to pull back, you have to be able to look at those things in the eye as well and say, look, like, this is a time when it doesn't matter how much I'm needed at work right now. What's happening at home is more critical. So it doesn't mean that you don't work typically. I mean, it's got to be something extremely, and it does happen. Like my brother, at one point, he was run over by a vehicle on his motorbike. Like, a cube truck ran right over him. We didn't know if he was going to make it. Yeah, man, I just shut her down. I mean,
Yeah, you're
my
not
my
working.
part, and my staff like clung on for dear life, and they did what they had to do.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy for them because we weren't planning to be away, but all of a sudden I was gone. I don't even remember for how long, but I was gone for a while.
Yeah.
And so until we knew that he was going to be recovering and he was on the right track, and interestingly helped the surgeon to cut open the left arm and not the right one, which made me feel very very useful in the moment.
Interesting.
Yeah, he was like, "Can you sign off on this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, but isn't it his left arm?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, you're right." He's like, "Thank you." Talking about work-life balance, that dude was tired, man. He was really tired.
I could see that.
But yeah, so I think that this is the push and the pull, is that if the only thing that changes the dial as far as how hard you're working, the hours put in, the aggression, etc., that you're in, the amount of energy, because that's the thing, it's not just time, it's energy. If you come home with nothing in the tank repeatedly forever, things fall apart at home.
Yeah.
And like, there's just no doubt about that. And I think that there are, again, everybody's different. Every family is different. And what's healthy for one family is not necessarily healthy for the next. Like there's differences there.
Yeah.
But being alive to what's going on in your personal life is critical. Like for you yesterday, you could have pushed through the day. Like you could have stayed on the roof for the afternoon.
Yeah.
But what would have happened is two things, is that you would have, well, it wouldn't have been productive, and maybe you could move backwards. And this is the thing that I find stunning as I get older, is that when you're young, you just fight to move forward, even if you're actually flailing and causing so much chaos that you're really moving backwards, but you feel like because you're investing energy that you're going forward. And I feel like you hit that point yesterday at lunch where you're like, okay, now at this point, I might be looking like I'm getting something done, but I'm actually not.
Well, what's funny is as soon as I left two guys on site, and because again, when I'm on the job, I'm more training guys, and I pulled two guys off with me, and the two guys I left there did more than I was expecting to get done had I stayed, because I just pulled all the inexperience and my own stress off that job site, and look at that. I got a picture and I was like, holy cow, you guys crushed it.
And they were probably like, okay, now let's just focus.
Totally. And
awesome.
Yeah, it was, in hindsight, it was a good thing to move. But going back to the individual circumstances around work-life balance, like for me to do what I did in starting this company, I couldn't have done it if I didn't have a stay-at-home wife.
Sure. Yeah.
Who
because
kids.
For context, you have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And they're fairly close together.
Yeah, they're 22 months apart each.
Yeah.
So they're now basically 11, 13, and 15.
Yeah. And so when you were starting, your kids were very small.
Yeah, and we were like, I had my son, he was a baby, and right when my my daughter was born, that's when we started this company.
Right.
And my third was born basically the same year that this company. So I had 3 tiny children.
Yeah.
And it's just like any company. When you start a company, you're working 16-hour days.
Yeah.
And there's not a hope I could have done this.
Yeah.
And it's actually hard on my wife because we built this company together.
Yeah.
I did the work, but
yes.
she held the fort.
Facilitated that.
And she, not only that, but when I got home, she took care of me because I had nothing left.
Totally.
I had nothing left in those early days.
Yeah.
And it's hard for her now because everyone looks at me and where Ridgeline is and everything. And it's just like, oh, kudos to you. And it's just like, well, it wasn't just me.
Yeah.
There was an immense amount of sacrifice that went into starting this,
and continues to be. Like this last weekend is something that if, she has the right as your spouse to push back against that kind of thing. If she, you know what I mean? There's that tug of war as far as hey, I've got to do this. Are you sure you've got to do this? I mean, there's that kind of communication that goes on, and I think it's fair.
I'm very fortunate because I have very little of that.
Right.
And I think that's because I communicate what's going on so thoroughly with my wife.
Yeah.
Like when I came home, even yesterday, she was just, again, she took care of me because I was just a hot mess.
Yeah.
Walked in the door and I was just like, it's one of those moments where I just came unglued and just couldn't figure out my crap, and she
Sure.
just took care of me.
Yeah.
But even over the weekend, she has a sense of what's going on
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like, clearly this is a priority. This has
Yeah.
to get done. And
Yeah.
and she understands not the in-depth stuff, but she has a general idea of what I'm doing and why it's so important, which I think is a really important thing. Like you can't take away from your personal life and your family life to dive into work and not have them have some basic understanding of why.
Yeah. And that's tough to communicate at times, because sometimes you just got to throw yourself in and just hope that people get it. I mean, maybe for me, it's just not as natural to communicate what I'm going through. I'm just like, well, clearly if I'm working this hard, it's for a reason.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting. I have a customer that I did a lot of work for a number of years back, named Cyril, and he comes from a very well-known family in this community. And he chatted with me, and he was watching my style, and he's like, why do you say please and thank you to your workers? He's like, man, you're the boss. Like, just tell them what to do. And I'm like, dude, this is Canada. Like, we say please and thank you just because it's just who we are. He's like, yeah, but he says, like, you're not required to do that. You're telling them what to do. Just keep it short and make it happen. And I'm like, okay, fair. Like, I'm listening, but I didn't change my style. That's who I am. And it's not that he's rude or anything. But then he went further on to say, he's like, man, he says, when I first came to this country, I think he was 17, I believe. He came from the old world over, and with a bunch of his brothers, and they came to the north and literally conquered. Like, they're worth almost as much as this town right now, those guys. Oof. They've done amazing work. But he's like, we just saw the opportunity, and he said our families just facilitated, just like you're saying. Like, yeah. He said there was no question. We never apologized. He says we just put our heads down and got her done. Yeah. And created amazing life for themselves, but also, I would argue, for hundreds and hundreds of people in this community that have worked for them over the years. And so probably thousands. Yeah. And now, I mean, they fly around in private helicopters and have their yachts. And I mean, they have an extremely, extremely good lifestyle, but they push through. And I think that it is the old world style to do it at all costs. Like, he wasn't talking about balance. He was talking about, like, he just said, we just put our head down, and there were seasons where his wife just didn't see him. And interestingly, I would argue, like, they're old now. They've spent their life together, and their relationship is beautiful to watch. Like, when you're working in someone's home or on someone's home for an extended period of time, it's pretty tough for them to hide if they're not doing well. Yeah. Like, you gotta get a sense of what's going on. And yeah, I would say that their relationship is phenomenal.
Despite him working around the clock for entire seasons.
Oh, yeah. And most people, and she would have been, with young kids. Beyond that, they lost like a 3-year-old at one point. Oh, and so, like, they've been through stuff. Like, it's not like they haven't had, like, challenges in their life. And I think this is one of the things that it's a challenge, because from the outside looking in, a lot of people will see what they want to see. And so they can easily point their finger and say, well, you work way too hard. You're too obsessive. Like, it's pretty easy to see, even though they may not understand what's going on behind the scenes, and it may be extremely healthy. But because it's different than what they would do, their level of hard is different, perhaps. I think that most business people, talking about level of hard and increasing the capacity to get things done is something that we actively pursue. Like, we actively pursue to have better capacity. And I think that there's people in all kinds of occupations and lifestyles that do this. But I think as a business owner, it's often not even a choice. Like, you got to learn how to handle extreme seasons.
This is an unpopular opinion, but I do genuinely believe that those extreme seasons, even though it's a sacrifice to your family, it's actually very healthy for your family. And a good example of this that I've experienced firsthand is when we did our expansion to Nanaimo. Right. And then we also did a huge project in Coldstream. And those two things in the same...
Which is hours away from here. That's like...
you're flying.
Yeah.
And so I was working out of town. I would argue it was the most healthy time in my family life is when I was away the most. Because,
interesting.
Like, I did I came home every single weekend, and that was my thing.
Yeah.
But there were some weekends, and this was probably over a 6-month period, where I would be home for literally 24 hours. Like, I was working 5 days a week. Unfortunately, I'd be home on the weekend, and sometimes I'd have to leave the next morning sometimes I did work it out where I had a couple days.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is because like I didn't do this against my wife's will. We decided that this was a worthwhile pursuit that we were going to take on together.
Right.
And holy cow, when I came home, I was so intentional with my wife and my kids.
Right. Yeah.
Because I knew I had a finite period of time.
Yeah.
And it's funny because even since I stopped doing that so much, I've lost that intentional time.
Sure.
Because it's so finite and so potent. I'm like, I need to come home and I need to, I brought my wife flowers almost every weekend.
Wow.
And
hey, you're gonna make us all feel bad here.
Well, when you're away and you're again leaving her to hold the fort for the 80% of the time.
Yeah.
Then when you get home, you better make up for it.
Right.
And we were doing that together, but it was also, and there was times where I brought them down or I just brought my wife down to where I was working.
Yeah.
But it was just like our time together was so intentional.
Right.
And that came as a byproduct of me being away, but it's also like me being away was an us thing.
Right.
Like we were taking this on together.
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Actually, one of the best times of my entire marriage was when I was actually working out of town.
Interesting.
Which most people would only look at it as a negative.
Yeah. Yeah.
And people, when I tell people that, most people can't relate, which is
sure. Well, because the truth is, I've seen a lot of guys. Because where we live, a lot of the best money is up north, like in no man's land. And in fact, my daughter right now, as we're speaking, is in the middle of nowhere. Like she has to be helicoptered into the bush. She's in grizzly and wolf country right now. She said the tracks she saw yesterday, the grizzly tracks, are just massive. And like if you're gonna do well in this area as a tradesperson or as a, like in her case, a consultant or these kind of things, you're often out in the middle of nowhere. Yeah, mines, login camps, all of that kind of stuff. And so, which requires you being away from your family. What I've seen is many friends and acquaintances of mine, and more acquaintances, my good friends typically have really good marriages, thank God. But many of my acquaintances that I know, they go up north because they've been struggling financially as a family, and they know that just having their same skill set, the same everything, but just being out, whatever, 4, 8, 10 hours up in the bush, they're going to make twice as much money. And so they're like, I'm just going to do this because it's worth it for my family. And then often what I've seen happen, not always, thank God, sometimes it works out amazing. Like you say, there's the communication, there's the intentionality and all of those things.
It's got to be done together.
But often they grow apart. And then all of a sudden the family that they went up to provide for is gone. They come back and they're just gone. And I find that absolutely devastating because then what do? Right? Like now all of a sudden you've got this amazing job where you're making great money and you're moving forward in your life, and suddenly you're still feeding your family, but you're not with them.
And what's the point of making all that money if you don't have people in your life to grow and share it with?
And all of a sudden you're providing for 2 households rather than 1, and that extra money that you're making is just gone to the wind, and you don't have any of the benefit that you were looking for. And so that is I think that's probably why you get pushback from people, because they know the other extreme. They've seen it. If it's not them or someone they know, it's someone that, it's 2 steps away. But in this community, I would argue most people know those kind of circumstances where people have just grown apart because they're working apart.
Yeah. I mean, the success rate, I guess, isn't that great.
Yeah.
I mean, when I went out, it was for a finite time. But the flip side of what you're saying, like I also know guys, even in our industry, crane truck drivers who could make way more money if they jumped in a truck and hauled long haul. Yeah. Did delivery around the country.
Yeah.
Doesn't make much money in town, but he's just like, man, I got kids. Yeah. I want to play ball. I want to have a life.
Totally.
And he, even though the dollar signs are offered to him regularly. Yeah. It's just like, no, I want.
Because he's got a great skill set.
Staying local is my ultimate priority. And I'm like, I love that. And that's why every circumstance is different.
Well, and you and I are quite different this way. Like for me,
this is true.
For me, like quite different, because for me, I don't like to be away more than a couple weeks a year. And so I arrange, like I've got opportunity. In fact, it feels to me like I've got almost at any given time, I've got some contractor somewhere trying to drag me somewhere far away.
Yeah.
but I turn down almost all of it without even bidding it or anything. Sometimes I don't even respond because I'm like, well, like I'm only going to do one of these jobs a year basically. And so I'll go up and do 2, sometimes 3 weeks a year, but that's about it. And for my wife and myself, and we have 4 kids, and they're spread right now between 11 and 21. And so, and they still all technically, home is still home base for all of them. My daughter's only there maybe, 2/3 of the time now, something like that. She's gone a lot, but it's still home base. And so, and our times together are like a pretty big deal for us. And so we just kind of, I stick around. And fortunately, I think that at the end of the day, I have tons of opportunity. I'm always busy here, so that's not an issue. And so so for me, it's not a question of like, I'm just going to sit here and my family's going to starve. It's not like that. It's like, I can be busy and making decent money here, or I can be busy and making really good money up north. Yeah. And so for me, the compromise is I'm going to do, and this is my balance, I guess, is that I'm going to do 2 or 3 weeks. And in that time, I typically go up and just work and just like stick my head into whatever job I'm doing and just kind of work as long hours as my body can handle and just really focus and then come back and take a few deep breaths and go back to a regular rhythm, which for me at this point in my life is that I never work weekends. Yeah. Like I can't remember the last weekend I worked. And that's a huge change from when I started my company years ago. Like I used to work 6 days a week was typical. Yeah. Rarely work Sundays because I just felt like for many different reasons. I mean, I value going to church on Sundays. I value getting together with friends, etc. So even before I was married, Sundays I tried to protect, but I would work 6 days a week, typically through the main season for sure. Yeah. And at this point, I just take Saturday and Sunday. I just do. And we have an acreage, and if I don't have, if every second weekend I'm not doing something on our acreage, it tends to come down around my ears, and I feel like my to-do list is too long.
You have like a second job having an acreage. Because you guys have more than an acreage. You have a little hobby farm.
Yeah, we have a hobby farm, etc. And I mean, admittedly, my wife carries my wife and the kids together, led by my wife, I guess, carry 98% of the day-to-day. So it's not like, but all of the infrastructure and the kind of, and the maintenance that has to do with stuff that they're just not able to do. Like that stuff, if I don't do it, it doesn't take long before I feel like, wow, like I don't want to live in a shanty town. I want it to be to a certain standard. And so yeah, those things matter. So I have to spend some time there. And then we also have to do some stuff for just straight fun, and we have to decide what that looks like as a family. And it's interesting because fun is valuable as well. Like I think that there's moments of beauty and there's moments of community and togetherness that if you don't have in your life, it doesn't take long before you feel like an empty shell. And so even if you are physically with people, but you're not intentional about it, you're not actually connecting, then all of a sudden you're this dusty, empty shell that may be producing. And I think what's important is that we recognize the warning signs inside of us and our family to know when we're hitting the red line. I think it's really critical.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest differences between me and you, and I can't even say it's just me and you, it's just our family circumstances as a whole. Because to me, and the way we've just structured our family and the way we're like, if I need to work, I'm going to work. If I need to go out of town, I'm going to go out of town. But for me, I really cherish, like people, some families need quantity of time.
Yes.
They need a massive amount of time together. Yeah. For me and my family, I would argue, and I could be wrong on this, it's just kind of how what we prioritize and what we feel works for us is just when we're together, the quality, we look for those really high quality moments. Like last night, it was a beautiful evening. We're living out at Clucas Lake right now, and it's 10 o'clock, and we're fairly far north, so the sunset's really late here right now.
Totally.
It's beginning of July.
Yeah.
And at 9:50, I took my daughters, jumped in the boat, the lake was calm, and we went out and almost 10 o'clock at night, went and watched the sun go down, and
Wow.
and it was just those moments
Yeah.
to me, like that one moment put time in the bank where now I can do work.
Yeah.
And I don't know, that to me, that's the work-life balance, is like prioritizing making those moments happen is more valuable than just, sitting on a couch and watching TV together all day.
Yeah.
Because, I see that too, where people are like, oh, you need to be home so much of the time. And then just, they're home, but they're just
Disengaged.
Yeah, disengaged or just busy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I see that, like, I really hate busyness in work and in personal life. I think it's a real thing. Just because you're busy doesn't mean you're being effective.
That's right.
And
yeah, totally.
This is a conversation I have with all my new workers. It's just like when people try out for the company, it's just like, I don't want you to just be busy. I want you to focus on learning and being effective.
Yeah, don't just look busy.
Yeah.
And this is, I think, probably a good place to bring this episode to a close. I'm thinking that the whole concept of looking busy or expending a lot of energy just to expend energy, I think is what we're trying to get away from. And I think that everyone should pursue efficiency. And I think that when people say work smarter, not harder, I that's a whole discussion for another day, because I think that's bunked to a large degree. I think there's times when working hard is unbelievably productive and helpful and necessary.
Yeah.
So I have nothing against working hard, but I think that working efficiently, or as efficiently as possible in the given situation, matters. And also then being as intentional as possible when you're off the tools, when you're with the people that you love.
Yeah. And when you're on the tools and working with the people you're trying to train and develop.
Absolutely.
It goes both ways.
Absolutely.
I always combine the two. You can't work smart without working hard, and you can't work hard without working smart. The two go hand in hand.
Yeah.
But the original saying is work smart, not hard. That's a very lazy.
And particularly in the trades, I'm like, whoever coined that is not a tradesman, because
not.
Working hard is part of what we do, and in fact what we're about to do.
And I think in any industry, work hard.
Yeah, well,
be somebody who's just going to show up and be dependable. And like I always tell people when they show up to my job site, and I feel the same when I walk in the door at home after, no matter what's happened in the day, it's just like, I want my presence to be known here.
Sure.
I want to be smart in how I handle things, but I want to pursue and work hard towards whatever I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
So,
yeah, you betcha. All right. Well, thank you so much, guys, for joining in the conversation, and we look forward to the next one. Checking out.